supporting you in your dog parenting journey. The Dynamic Dog Owner with Debbie Potter. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Dynamic Dog Owner, the podcast designed to support you, the dog parent, in your dog parenting journey. So, we've all heard it, haven't we? Your dog can't have fun on a lead. All dogs should be able to be off lead. It's not fair on them if they're off lead. They can't have as much fun. You should let them off lead. Okay? We've all heard that phrase, right? I disagree. Dogs can have just as much fun on a lead as they can off a lead. We just need to know how to adapt it, right? So that's what we're going to have a little chat about. How can we make sure that our dogs' walks on lead are as stimulating as possible? Because there is a misconception that dogs on lead can't have fun. They don't get as much. So some of the things you're probably likely to hear are they can't get as much exercise on a lead because they can't run around. So, you need to walk them for longer to make sure you're meeting the right exercise level. They can't sniff. They can't follow scent. So you're stopping them from sniffing because you keep them on a lead. They can't play with other dogs on a lead. They just basically have no fun. The other thing is that people also, so there's that misconception of, lead is bad. Lead stops all fun. Lead, is boring for a dog. Dogs have a right to go off lead. I disagree, they don't. It's a responsibility to let your dog off lead, and you have to tend to spend a long time training them to be comfortable and have a good recall before you let them off the lead. But we also very, very commonly hear that my dog won't come back when he's called. My dog wants to play with every dog he sees when he's off lead and runs across the field to go and say hello to people. My dog chases wildlife. My dog chases runners. My dog gets so excited that he pulls all the way to the field, and that's why I have to just let him off the lead. All of those things are problems because you let your dog off lead. If you think about it, I'm not saying don't let your dog off lead, because obviously you need to let your dog off lead at some point. There's ways and hows we can manage it. And obviously there's loads of our previous episodes on off lead time. But we're talking about how we can make on lead fun today. And obviously that makes it sound like you shouldn't let your dog off lead. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying a lot of problems that we experience come because we let them off the lead too much, too frequently, before we've sort of train them to be happy on a lead and built connection. A lot of problems will be solved by keeping them on a lead. If you think about it, the only problem on a lead is that they pull, or that obviously they react to another dog, but that's emotions. We tend to always experience a lot more problems off a lead, which can simply be rectified, if that makes roundabout sense. So obviously it's a common misconception that dogs, you need to have a good time out on their walk. They need to be running, going crazy, playing with other dogs, just having the best time ever all the time for it to be a good walk. And it's just simply not the case. They can have so much fun on a lead because they're connected with you. There is more connection between the two of you. And it builds to having the connection on a lead, builds to having the success off a lead. So don't feel guilty about keeping your dog on a lead. There's nothing wrong with it. There's this big misconception that dogs shouldn't be on a lead, and that you're basically limiting their life and you're rubbish unless you let them off the lead, which is completely wrong. They can have just as much more responsible fun on a lead. If you think about it, being on a lead means that your dog's in control. Or you're in control of them. And if you think about the law, dogs need to be in control or under control in public spaces. One of the easiest ways to do that is just simply keep the lead on. You can't manage and control every situation when they're off lead. So there's never going to be that elusive 100% recall ever, because you can't guarantee it because you've never tested it in every situation. And obviously it's really easy to pick up bad habits, but it's so much easier to teach them good habits than it is to break them. Hence, being on a lead means you are helping them learn what you would like from them so that they can actually go off lead quicker. When we work with people on recall and they come to us for a recall course or what have you, one of the challenges I always give them is, for the duration of us working together, please keep them on a lead all the time, like throughout our time working together. So normally it's like 6 weeks, because you are going to see better improvements than if you let them off the lead and try and practice your recall, because you're not stopping them from getting it wrong. If they're off lead and they choose to ignore your recall, that's it, they're gone. If they're on lead and they choose to ignore your recall, yeah, they've ignored your recall, but they haven't practiced doing the thing you didn't want them to do in the first place. And therefore, it's not getting worse, it's only getting better. But anyway, that's kind of gone a little tangent already. So on lead doesn't have to be short lead. We are under a misconception that the only lead we should have them on when we say on lead is like a meter long lead, super duper short, that basically means they have enough room to walk next to us and that's it. Leads come in different lengths. You can get 1 meter, you can get 2 meters, you can get 3 meters, 5, 10, 20. You can get any length lead you like. They're still on lead. So on lead can be fun if you pick the right lead. Now, obviously, when you're walking down a road, 2 meter lead, perfect. When you're in an open space, 10 meter lead, 5 meter lead, 20 meter lead, whatever works for you, depending on the space you're in. It's one of the most, I think it's the most important tool every dog owner should have, because you get the best of both worlds. Your dog is on a lead, safe, happy, doing stuff, connected with you, but they still have freedom. They can have the freedom. So you've got that connection through it. And we're talking fixed length lead, not the extendable ones. It's keeping that control and that safety aspect, but it's giving them enough freedom so that they can be a dog. They can explore, they can still play, they can still sniff, they can still run around, they can still move, they can still interact with other dogs, but they have to be with you and near you to do all those fun things. So it's making sure they stay closer and more connected to you, but still get the freedom of being a dog. Obviously, you have to have space and the distance and to train exercises, but you need to practice recall. You need to have distance between you. That you can't practice recall here on a long line. You can still practice your recall, but on a lead, they're still getting to move away. They're still getting to have the freedom. You can still practice, but you've got the security of knowing it's going to go well. The other sort of beauty I find of keeping them on a lead is that you relax. I don't know about you guys, but maybe I'm just like hyper vigilant, hyper aware. But if my dog is off lead, I am constantly scouring the environment. And this is Fred in particular, because Fred's just Fred. I'm constantly scouring the environment, looking and watching, going, right, what's changing? Where is he? What's changing into the environment? What's coming into the environment? What's that? What's this? I'm hyper vigilant to the area to make sure that I help him succeed and recall him back and maybe put him on the lead before something happens or before something enters his environment that I know he's going to find difficult. On a long line, I wouldn't say all of that disappears, because that would be very, very, oh yes, carefree the second I clip a lead on. It's not. But that reduces significantly. If I have a long line on him, I'm not as hyper vigilant. I'm aware and I'll be looking around going, yeah, I know what's going on, but I'm not at that, I'm ready to act and get him back on a lead stage. I'm quite chill. He's on a long line. I'll still be aware of what's going on because I might need to manage him, but I know he can't run off. I know he can't cause mischief. I know he can't bark at people. I know he can't go off into mischief. And just thinking about that topic, and it's just come back to what happened on holiday. So I was on holiday recently. I've talked about it in a previous episode. By the time this actually airs, it's probably been like 3 months since I went on holiday, because I batch record these guys. I don't sit in every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and record it and then release it. I do batch them. So I've been on holiday like 2 weeks ago. So by the time you listen to this, it might be a few months time. But whilst I was on holiday, I found it really, really interesting how people don't use lines. I'm much more aware and much more cautious than majority of people are. So my dogs don't go off lead unless I am really convinced they're going to stay with me and not be distracted by their environment. Because I'm very hyper aware that I don't want them to cause mischief. And there's 2 examples I can talk about with this. So while I was on holiday, I keep Fred on a long line unless the beach is pretty much deserted or the people are a long way away, which is quite easy to do in Norfolk, to be fair, because the beaches are big. Because he has a tendency to bark. He's a noisy dog. He barks for everything. And listen to a previous episode about barking. I talk about his different barks. He barks when he's excited. He barks when he's nervous. He barks when he's wary. He barks when he's startled. He barks if he wants something. He barks just for the sake of barking because it's fun. He likes the sound of his own voice. Each bark is very expressive. I know exactly what it means. He's just noisy. And that's him. And that's not a problem. I know that and I'm aware of that. And I'm aware that he is a big dog. He's a golden retriever. So he's a bigger dog. He's got a big bark. And majority of people are probably going to think twice. If he walked up to them sliding up really quietly, not an issue. If he comes up to you barking, naturally people are much more aware. Hence, I don't let him do it. So whenever there's people on the beach, I will pick up the long line and be like, nah, you got to stay near. You can still be free at your 10-meter lead, but I need you to not be able to go over and bark at people because it will intimidate them. I know he's probably going, hello. It's his hello, I'm excited to see you bark. They don't know that because they don't know him as well as I know him. So he stays on a long line if there are people around. Now, we were walking on the beach. It was pretty much quiet. There's hardly any dogs around. So I was like, I could let him off. I could drop the long line. But I was like, no, because there's a couple of people there in the sea. And they were kind of like not so deep that he wouldn't notice them, but not on the beach, if that makes sense. They were kind of like, I don't know, about 5-ish meters, 10 meters maybe into the sea. And I could tell by his body language, he was a little bit wary of them. So he was a little bit aware and he was like, what's going on here? And he did give a few woofs. But I was like, mate, they're just in the sea. Don't worry about it. I actually thought he was thinking, don't you know the waves are terrifying, guys? Why are you in there? It was that kind of a bark. He was like, what are they doing, mum? Because he's afraid of the waves. So he's like, I'm watching out for you. Danger. But he gave a few woofs and I reconnected with him. I was like, mate, come on, it's okay. Don't worry about it. He looked again, gave a couple of woofs, and they were like really subtle woofs. And I was like, that's cool. We carried on. Now, down the beach behind us, I could hear a very, very noisy dog coming. And it was really excited barks. You know, it wasn't a bad bark. It was just a barking dog having fun on the beach. But the difference between the two people, I'm very hyper conscious of it. And I'm like, mate, no, don't bark at people. Come here, let's carry on. And he maybe gave about 3 gruffs under his breath. That was enough for me. I don't want you to proceed with that. So we carried on. As we got further on, I looked back, the barking dog had come up and was clearly feeling the same way as Fred about the people in the water and was in the sea barking at them, circling them, woofing at them the whole time. That's obviously not as what was the word politely? Responsible. Maybe responsible. Let's go for that. It's not as responsible as others would be. Now, that whole situation can be changed by just having a dog on a lead. So they still get to explore. They still get to do everything they want to do. It's just that the lead prevents them from going and doing something and following through with it. A similar situation yesterday. Obviously, I, again, was out for a walk with my kids. I say kids, they're teenagers, okay? They're like older teenagers. I shouldn't really call them kids anymore, but they will always be my kids. And we went somewhere to a popular location to see the sunset. And as we get to the busier part, I had Rem with me, perfect off lead, not an issue. As we get to the busier part, I put him on the lead. We've walked the quieter path up to it. Over the bit where you can see the sunset, obviously there's lots of people. I put him on a lead. Why? Because I don't want him going over and pestering other people. Other people don't want it. So I will put him on a lead. In case someone's having a picnic, in case someone, I don't know, kid does something strange and he rushes over. He's not going to do anything. I know he's not going to do anything, but he might intimidate someone else. So he stays on the lead. Other people, dogs are running around like crazy. That's your choice. You do you, I do me. I am hyper aware of it and hyper cautious. I don't want my dogs to interfere with anybody else's day. It's probably one of my worst things that I actually sit on the fence a lot more than I should because I'm really conscious of them not affecting somebody else's day. And I probably limit their experiences too much because of it. Hold my hands up. That's something I need to work on myself. But anyway, let's get back to the point. So long line means they can still do all this stuff, but they can't practice those little bits of unwanted that you don't want them to do. So that's why it's important. As I kind of touched on already, but people are probably surprised that majority of my dogs are on the lead. Of majority of my dogs, I mean, I've got hundreds of them. People, building on that sort of topic, a lot of people are probably surprised that as a dog trainer, I'm happy to admit that I don't let my dogs off lead. I'm supposed to have perfect dogs that walk by my side, do exactly as they're told, like robots, aren't I? Because I'm a dog trainer. No. I let my dogs be free to be who they are. I understand them, but I'm very responsible. And I know who has a good recall and who doesn't have a good recall. And I know who can be off lead in what situation. And I much prefer my dogs on a lead. I know it sounds silly, but it's just so much more stress-free, and everyone needs a stress-free life. I mean, I do. I have enough external stress that my dog walks need to be relaxing. I keep them on a lead. Why? Because I don't want them to practice the unwanted stuff. I want to relax. I want them to learn to just chill out with me and not see value elsewhere. So it may be maybe I get judged for that. Oh, I'm a bad dog trainer because my dogs aren't perfect off lead. That's not important to me. All of my dogs, every dog can misbehave off of a lead. Every dog can make a wrong choice. And I just prefer them not to do that. And I prefer to kind of stay with that element of safety, especially in busy places. It's just how I am. Anyway, so it's okay to be the same as me. It's okay to keep your dogs on a lead. If that's what you enjoy, if you're happier with that, that's fine. There is no pressure to let your dog off of a lead ever. But the question is, or the point is of today's podcast episode, is how can we make sure that keeping them on a lead doesn't hinder their life and actually adds to it? Because spending time on a lead doesn't have to mean boring walk, doesn't have to mean no fun. It can mean more fun. Obviously, by keeping them on a lead, you're going to prevent all the little things like the recall issues and running over and barking at people, etc. But we can encourage all that fun stuff to happen near us. So I don't know about you guys, but most people say the best part, or the reason they got a dog, the best part of a dog is to enjoy a walk together. Now, how can you enjoy that if you're here and your dog's hundreds of miles over there? So if they're on a lead, you're connected naturally. If you're on lead, you're spending that company in sharing the experience together, or at least if they're close to you, rather than being miles away. I like to walk with my dogs and be connected in what they're doing. Hence, I do keep them on leads majority of the time, unless they're happy to chill out with me. And that kind of builds onto another topic because everything overlaps. We know that. It's all like little spider webs, all intertwined. If you train your dog, or you build the connection with your dog, it's not about training them to behave. If you build the connection with your dog that they actually want to hang out with you and be near you, then on lead, off lead doesn't matter because they choose to be near you. And that's kind of where I'm at with Rem. It doesn't matter if he's on lead or off lead. He will chill out next to me. To be honest, Fred is the same as well. If Fred's off lead, he still hangs out near me. He still comes back and checks in all the time. He doesn't go any further away. It's just when those distractions come in that I know he might be freaked out by, he can't practice the wrong choice. Same with Rem. I just think, in some situations, just go on a lead, mate. It just takes everyone else's stress away. And often I find it takes other people's stress away. If you're sitting and having a picnic and you see an off-lead dog running around, you kind of go, quick, guys, hold the sandwiches. Whereas if you're sitting having a picnic and you see a dog on lead, you go, cool, that dog's under control, don't have to worry about it. So I just think it enhances everybody's enjoyment if the dog's on a lead. That's me. So obviously we've got loads of benefits of staying on lead. We've talked about them already. They can't run off. They can't annoy the people that are having picnics. They can't chase things they shouldn't. What else? They can't choose to ignore you. Let's face it. They can't choose to ignore you. And there are so many things that we can do to improve the relationship and encourage that strong relationship and all the things we want to happen with our dogs by keeping them on lead. So how do we make sure that the time they spend on lead is fun? So obviously you've got so many benefits of staying on the lead, which we've kind of already talked about. Me personally, I'm so much more relaxed if they're on lead. I don't know if you're the same, but I'm more relaxed if my dog's on lead. You can enjoy the walk without worrying. You haven't got to constantly be looking around and be hypervigilant like I said that I am. You can enjoy being with your dog. You can walk together. You can have fun together. You can do so much more together. And obviously, in a way, I'm talking about this because I enjoy lead walks because my dogs aren't too bad on a lead. Rem's easiest. Fred's so much better on a lead than he ever was. And Zave's pretty good on a lead now. I like lead walking. It's one of my passions to teach. It's one of my passions to train. I like practicing it. But practicing your lead skills actually supports your off lead time. So it all kind of interlinks anyway. But how can you make sure that we do spend more time together or enjoy the time we have together on lead? One, use that longer lead. Use a longer lead so that they are having fun and still being able to display natural dog behaviour, like you're sniffing and sort of zigzagging around. They are just on a lead. So on lead doesn't have to mean short lead. If your dog can't be let off lead for whatever reason, or you're not happy to let them off lead, invest in a longer lead, go to bigger spaces where they can. That way, they're getting the best of both worlds. Obviously, you can do activities and exercises. Like, I don't know if you've heard about parkour, which we didn't mention in our podcast about dog sports. It's not necessarily a sport per se. You can get titles in it. So we should have mentioned that. So parkour is a nice activity about interacting with objects around you. So dogs learning to interact with them by like placing feet on them, going around them, going under them. All that can be done on a lead. So you can engage with your dog more on a lead by doing fun things like parkour. Activities like trailing, tracking, scent detection are all on lead. So the lead doesn't mean no fun. It means, wow, we get to do all this stuff together and we're connected and can communicate. So if you are in a position where your dog only stays on lead, go find out about tracking, go find out about trailing, do some scent detection, because these are all things we can do to change how we feel about the lead. That the lead isn't the end of fun, it's the connection and the communication that allows us to do these things. Any tracking and trailing is always done on a lead because you have to remain connected to your dog. So you can open up the fun channels that way. You could also play games on lead. So things like running games where they have to chase you, hiding toys, all of those things can happen on lead. On lead doesn't have to be the end of fun. See it as the way to get more freedom. Because if you can connect with me on a lead, you're going to connect with me off a lead. We kind of think that there's two different rules, on lead, off lead, when actually it's the same rules apply. But if your dog can't do it on a lead, there's no way they're going to do it off lead. So if we work on the on lead stuff first, it actually builds up to giving them more freedom. So we can use all these methods. So for example, having a longer line, tracking, trailing, sniffing, parkour, training fun on a short lead, all of that will build your connection with your dog, which then means your off lead is going to end up being more successful. If you never want to let them off the lead, doesn't matter, you're still having fun on lead. But it's all about making on lead walks just as fun, just as engaging as they could be off lead. Obviously, we have to look at the pulling on the lead aspect, but the more you connect with them on a lead, the less the pulling is going to happen anyway. But dogs who are kept on a lead can still be well exercised. They can still sniff, they can still explore, they can still have fun, they can still do everything. The difference is you're doing it together to make sure that you are connecting and sharing the experience rather than walking and your dog being over there doing their own thing. So think as the lead as a connection so that you can share experience rather than doing it separately. And if you want to find out more, let us know and we can give you some tips about other things that you can try. Hopefully that's been useful. And at least made you think that, dogs don't have to be off lead. They don't have to be off lead to have fun. They can have just as much fun on lead and sometimes more fun. And you can enjoy your walk more because you relax if they're on lead. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Hopefully you found some of it useful. Again, as always, like, comment, share, subscribe if you're on YouTube so that you get reminded of next week's episode. And if you are listening on a listening platform, then make sure you share that with friends and family so that if they've got dogs, they can benefit from the episode as well. Have a good week and I'll speak to you soon.
We are approaching our 100th episode of The Dynamic Dog Owner. That's nearly 2 years since our weekly episodes launched, which is absolutely crazy. Where has the time gone? I really hope that you guys have enjoyed listening to the podcast over the last couple of years and it has helped support you on your dog parenting journey. So to celebrate our 100th episode, we are having a competition. All you need to do to enter the competition is follow the link in the description. That will take you to a form, fill it out, and you will be entered into a prize draw. The top prize is going to be an hour's virtual one-to-one coaching session with myself, and there will be 10 runner-up prizes. That will give you 1 month's access to our brand new Paul Academy online training hub full of videos. So if you would like to enter this competition, fill that form in, and I hope you guys are one of the lucky winners.
Thank you for listening to The Dynamic Dog Owner with me, Debbie Potter. See you next time.